So we are on. This is the lecture for Design 350 on Tuesday, November 10th. And it's a new module. I was pretty impressed with the results of your survey drawings. Very nice job all the way around. And so that's done. I think everybody who got all their work turned in was able to clearly demonstrate that they can read a rod, write it down on a survey record, and draw it in two different ways, in an XYZ format or a distance and bearing format. So that was great. You guys did just fine with that. And you could create a section view from the YZ. So good work. Everybody who got your stuff turned in, I think I got it all done yesterday. So we're into new stuff today, and that's your industry choice set number 1. Now we have 2 sets, 2 times. We've got 4 weeks, so the first one should take 2 weeks. The second one should take 2 weeks. There's a little bit of time in there for the holiday and for doing some other work. These are meant for you to investigate something you're interested in. It's not to press the boundaries of full learning at the greatest level. It's to deepen your understanding, not broaden it. So please, as you look at these, choose something that you feel is well within your capabilities. I'm sure you have other classes that you're stressing over too. But this part of the class is where you should be able to apply what you've learned in a way that's interesting to you so that it sinks in. Okay? A huge amount of new knowledge is not the ultimate goal. All right? And so I've given you a whole bunch of things that you can choose from. Of course, what you do has to be related to the class somehow. So I am giving you certain things that relate to what we've done, and then you get to choose what you'd like to do. So here's how it works. Okay, the first thing is you look at the little modules and decide what you want to do. Some of the modules will take you the whole 4 weeks. And so there were 2 of these by themselves. You'll do like a submittal in 2 weeks. Well, you do a submittal every week, but this weekend is pre-check, right? But you'll get 2 grades out of 1 module for some of them, and they'll say which ones they are. You'll go to this form. Let me open up this form. And let me know which one of these you want to do. Okay, so here they all are. There's a SACOG proposal, and that one looks huge, but it's actually very focused. You get to choose one portion of that. A financial analysis, I think that one's super interesting because it's something I don't know about, but I know how to do. Sanitary drain community. So, and some of these actually could be one of these. So they're not all fully separated. A building infill proposal, a landscape plan, how to use drones as a survey tool. We'll get you on to Drone Deploy, get you a hold of our data. We'll give you the drone simulator so you can practice flying a drone. It's the closest thing we can get to it, and we'll go through the process for you. And I have one of our former students who does this, and they'll be able to work with you. We can hire him to actually do this work for you, to help you through it. Use of survey tools for distance and bearing, that's going into here. Again, here's your here's your site, but I've put some buildings on it and some trees and some things that make the survey a little more interesting and a little bit hard. Yeah, Benjamin says that sounds cool. It is cool. The drone stuff is very cool. Um, and so there we go with that. And let's see. Let's get back to, and I'll go over these more. There's a commercial site development proposal. So you've done a residential site. Now you get a chance to do a commercial site if you wish to. Excuse me. And then there's the Minecraft construction simulation, which I'll start there and then I'll go back to the other ones. So Adrian, some of you might know Adrian from landscaping. Adrian chose to do this for our Design 300. And I got to tell you, it's pretty darn, what an excellent job. So you can see that the first part of the job is to describe the simulation environment. And this was very well stated and very well done, although it comes right out of the Minecraft site, but it's well put together. And then a little bit more, what does it teach? And so I'll give you the format for this of what the simulation environment is like, and then how to access the environment, how to operate. Here's the controls and where, what's east, west, north, south, up, down, and what that all looks like. And then here are the required activities. And this is a very straightforward one, and it actually works with what we're doing too, although you'll be required to do some survey work too. But you can see that there's this person did it alone. There's a site walk. There's some excavation, some grading, some land work, and then of course this is reverse survey, right? Where you're given a drawing and now you have to go lay it out with your XY coordinates. There's a specific location that I've chosen from one of the plains biome, and it's near a river. And so if you're interested in doing some septic work too, it's real interesting trying to find where you can put a septic field in here. And then there's just the good plain work, right? There's the site analysis, clearing and grubbing, excavation and grading, foundation. And this right here is essentially what I gave to Adrian. I said, here's the site, here's a picture, here's a drawing of it, and here's what you're supposed to do. And you can see how Adrian started to create that layout based on this. And then let's see, down here, this is the actual work. Here was the grubbing. Well, here was first the staking, right? You have to go out there and so what Adrian did, every 50 meters or along the 50 square meter site, put the golden or the yellow columns, and then every 10 meters put the red columns as a quick reference. So that way could line up and get good work done and figure out where things were. And then these ones here, these yellow ones were the building pad themselves. Then they had to grub it. You had to get rid of the trees. There was excavation down to an elevation of 65 meters. And then replacing a layer of dirt. So here's the excavation of the site. Here's the gravel layer being put down. Here's the dirt layer, the gravel layer, the sand layer, and then on top of the sand layer, the concrete layer. So pretty cool, right? And then there will be more to come. So that's what the if you would like to do a reverse job, I will give you, yeah, that's a nice presentation, isn't it? Benjamin, no, that is an excellent presentation. As a matter of fact, I sent it to our Vice President of Instruction, Frank Kobayashi, because Frank is very interested in what can be done. Yeah, and so some of you who know Adrian can give a good shout out. Say, hey, we saw your stuff. It was so cool. I think some of you might even be in a class in Professor Jones's class. Just excellent work. But anyway, so Frank Kobayashi is really interested in how this could be used and what sort of resources have to be put behind it to help students be able to get a better feel for things before you get out onto a real site or into a weld shop or into a chemical laboratory. At least know the basics of what you're supposed to do and what the safety rules are, and so that's kind of cool. Yes. So Benjamin asks, is there a way to upload to 3D? First of all, that is 3D. The world is 3D. And you can go right into Minecraft and walk around in it. Ask Adrian for a sharing permission code, and you can go right to it, and even have different permissions as far as being able to work on it, being able just to visit it, go into what's called observation mode, where you can even go underground and see cool stuff. But there's also another program called FME that will translate between Revit and Minecraft and Revit. It's not an easy program to use. We have one programmer who knows how to work with it. And that programmer is graduating and going to Sac State next semester, but I believe we've got our hooks into him to keep him on at least like 4 to 6 hours a week to help us do cool things like that. So that's a cool one, and you can see how it's kind of good. Now, here's the other thing: is you can actually our programmer also created an Excel spreadsheet where you can transfer your information pretty quickly from Minecraft to an Excel spreadsheet to do some real quick, interesting calculations. So if you're interested in that, it's going backwards, though. It's survey to construction instead of what we've done so far in survey, which is here's the ground, let's document it. Okay? And they're both valid parts of survey. It just so happens that our class mostly revolves around the other. So that's one of the cool ones to do. So what we'll do is you go to the forum and let us know. And you don't have to do it right now, but certainly by the end of today, you should know which one of these. And I'll put... I have to put more effort into further defining what you're supposed to turn in, but I'm only going to do it for ones that people sign up for. So if you sign up today, I'll be able to spend tomorrow morning inputting what the actual submittal requirements are so that you can really start working. There's enough to get going on all of them, but you'll want to really start working. So you can start working right away. There is stuff to do, and each week submit either your progress check work or your finished submittal. Okay, it's going to be really important to do the progress checks for this one. Okay, as always, you should post some of your work to the discussion board. I think in this case, your colleagues will be able to give you some good feedback in that. If they can understand what you're doing, you're presenting it well. And so that's the type of feedback you're going to get. You'll repeat this entire process for the second set. This is set number 1 that is supposed to take you 2 weeks. There's a few of them that say that it is 1 and 2. And so here's the submittal link for set number 2. So that's how it works. You just pick and you get going. So let's take a look and see what some of them are. The first one is a SACOG proposal. Remember, that's Sacramento Area Council of Governments. And that's where the big money flows from for real kind of integrated project work. I've made a template for you that is for a SACOG proposal, because nothing works. And you don't just give this to SACOG. You give this to your local neighborhood planning or rep or your city council person to get them interested, and they start working with the SACOG reps from each government group. But it's for an improvement proposal. And remember, this is with respect to fair housing, aspects of fair housing, and good community development. And so what we want to do is we want to promote fair housing in a sustainable way. And that's obviously not easy. It would be much more prevalent if it was easy to do. So it takes some work. So there should be an executive summary, which is in one paragraph. It gets somebody excited. It's the equivalent of the elevator proposal, right? Where you're in the elevator with the big boss. You're going up to the top floor. You've got 30 seconds to a minute to get their attention and get them interested in your proposal, because they're walking off to the next thing. So this is the equivalent of your elevator proposal or elevator presentation. One quick shot to get the big dogs interested. Then there should be some background that lets somebody know the context of what you're doing, why it's important, sort of the background of what you're trying to address. And that's different than the purpose. The purpose is exactly the purpose. Okay, so for example, you might say up in the executive summary that you're going to help produce a sustainable, low-income, first-entry home ownership opportunity for a certain area. Well, the exact proposal is more like, we're going to create a subdivision of 4 lots out of 1 lot. 2 of those lots are always going to be priced in an entry-level pricing matrix, but it's going to be done in such a way that the entry-level market buyer will be able to generate wealth to move up. There. That's sort of a purpose, okay? You also might want to say that it's a scaled demonstration project if you're working on a certain technology. If you're working on a solar energy or wind energy or a small nuclear energy neighborhood energy distribution site, you're going to say this is a scaled demonstration for the larger area of Arden Arcade. It's going to be done on this property and scale out at this many units, and it can be scaled. So you see how the purpose is much more defined, and it's something that can be measured. That's when we talk about the outcomes. You have to be able to measure whether this was useful or good or not. And you know what? Even if it turns out that it's a total flop, that's also worthwhile information. Okay, finding out the conditions under which something that seems like a good idea flopped is excellent, because then you don't keep repeating the same bad idea over and over and over again because it sounds like such a good idea. So avoid, well, don't avoid. If you got something that's a sure winner, do it. But it's okay if you're taking a chance and just finding something out. Okay? But then in your purpose, you have to say what to do with it when it is a flop. So that's called an exit strategy. You might want to put your exit strategy in here somewhere that says, and if this doesn't work, we're going to stop maintaining it, we're going to dismantle it, we're going to do whatever. Okay, the proposal defines exactly the goal of the project, what you're asking for to accomplish it, how much it will cost, and the timing. So this is what most people go to right away, but you can't really build this until you've done these three things and done a good job. Okay, then after your proposal, you need a section on outcomes. Outcomes are important because they're really what the SACOG people want to see. Okay, from this, SACOG is going to get a report of some sort of outcomes. And so if you were going to sustainably let's say you've got a transportation thing and you've made a small transportation hub for your community. So you've taken, maybe, I don't know, 1,000 square feet and you've made it into a cool EV parking station that's sort of like Uber for your area that can get people back and forth to the transportation hub that's around you. And so the outcome would be how many times it's used, what are the maintenance costs, what hours it's used at. The outcome is the measurable thing that you want to see happen. Okay, so that's your outcome. Potential barriers to success. There's always something that can get in the way. Okay, there's planning approvals, there's financing, there's neighborhood resistance. I don't want a parking lot in front of my house next door and all sorts of people walking by, and those are valid, right? Neighborhood is a neighborhood. Those of you, I hated Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when I was a kid. I wouldn't even let my kids watch it. I don't know why. I absolutely hated the thing. I understand it was, but anyway, neighborhoods are for neighbors. And so you obviously want to be a good neighbor. And so neighborhood resistance, Title 24 rules, you have to list those potential barriers to success. And SACOG is actually one of the places where you can go to lift them. And then the last part is supporting documents. So this doesn't really take that long to do. And the supporting documents would be, if it has to do with the Winding Oaks development, which is what I'm suggesting, that you would have some stuff to go along with it. So there's the template. Choose one topic out of this list and make some sort of a proposal that would be sustainable. Okay, sustainable means that it's got to be able to be reproduced and regenerated and keep working and even change and transform through generations, really. Not something that's just going to be there for 10 or 15 years. You sell the place and it's done. It's something that can really, really last. So as the example, if you're making a community transportation hub, you'd have to have some sort of plans for changing fuels that could happen, or types of vehicles that are available, or access or payment methods. And so you want to think, how do you get rid of one of the junkers? How do you do the insurance if something So something happens. So these are all things that you think of as sustainable benefit. And then who's going to get the benefit? Right? Is it one unit out of the proposal, or does this generate money to help pay property taxes for the entire subdivision? Or does it help generate funds for landscaping for the entire subdivision? How does that work? So that's what we mean by sustainable. How does that work? Okay. What to submit? There's some stuff to submit here and all that kind of stuff. And it should have, you are going to need to have your plan. If you're choosing a new site, you don't have to do a new demolition utility calculation and stormwater, blah, 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 unless it's integral to it. But it should include your original proposal with something that says revised new construction plan. Okay? So this opens you up to a lot of cool things, and the whole idea is that you want it to meet some of the fair housing criteria. Okay? A benefit or even a leg up to those that have not had opportunity to fair housing in the past. So that's one of them. That's one of the ones to do, and that shouldn't take you more than 2 weeks. That should not be too hard. Financial analysis for market caps. So if you've had, for instance, Design 310, or I think Chalo does some estimating programs and things like that. This is just about doing some research and putting it together in a way that we can see it. I don't know the answer to this one. I would love to do it myself. Okay? But CC&Rs often have things about, median price per square foot, what you can resell a place at, or what you're purchasing at, or things like that. So here are some CC&Rs here's the basics, and here's one in Irvine that show how a CC&R can be written to keep a cap or keep a real thing. So which one like a report? On the SACOG one, what's on? Or on this one? On the CC&R or the SACOG? The SACOG needs some drawings. This particular one, yeah, in the previous one, the SACOG, yeah, you need to put the drawings in to identify the site that you're going to be working on. So ideally, it's going to be on your Winding Oaks site, something that has to do with your Winding Oaks site. But if you do choose a new one, you really just need your vicinity map, site map, area map, site plan. You don't need the demolition utilities calculate, all that kind of stuff. Okay? On this one, it's really an analysis table that's backed up by good research, and you have to have your data. Okay? What is this one? I don't even know what that one is. Oh, this one's accessory dwelling units. Why did I put that in there? I think I got that one. I put this one in the wrong one. So I have to go back and look at this one. But your idea is that you go and you make a chart that says, right, how many square foot your building would be at this price per square foot, this price per square foot, and this price per square foot to meet, say, 50, 75, 100, 125, and 150% of median. So that gives you this nice little chart that you can work with, and then you have to append to that how much, if it's going to cost that much, what is the how much money do you have to make to be able to afford that? So this is essentially what they call a 3D graph or a pivot table that would allow you to start working with some of this. So each one of those, you'd have to say what percent of median income would be required for a bank to give you a loan on that. And so you'll see that, it doesn't always work out. Percent of median market price doesn't always match out with median income. And banks have certain criterias, online lending groups. There's Prosper, there's Quicken, there's, JoeBobsKneecapper.com. I wouldn't go to them. There are lending cooperatives. So you'd have to take a look at some of those too. And so make an income of a table of income versus loan limit, and then you have to tie those two together. So this one's really a good data analysis one. And so I'm not sure why I got the this is why, because you're supposed to be able to tie this to how you would write a CC&R. So this is how you would write some CC&Rs for it. Okay? This one is really important because I hear a lot in the fair housing, low income rental, low income market, low income building, especially in Davis, where low income is my God, such an ungodly high amount. What they call low income in Davis is just absolutely ridiculous. So I'm cognizant of this, and I never see real data. I just see people very passionately discussing what's right and wrong, which I agree with. You only select one at a time. Renolfo says you can only select one at a time because I want to work on what you're working on now. So pick the one that you want to do first, then we'll be able to do it for the second one. So thank you for bringing that up, Renolfo. Because as I said, what I'm using that for is to get myself a list of where I have to go and make sure my what to submits are all clear and concise and really set up. Okay, so this one, I think this one's like super, super interesting because it's real data that people could use to inform their passion. And I think that that's important to have passion, but it's also important to have numbers. Sanitary drain design research process. You remember that Dr. Hernandez, when we were talking about this, goes, man, he had no idea to find out how big the sewer is and how much you can hook into it and what kinds of things you need to do to make sure that you're not overwhelming the sewer system. Well, I went onto the regional sanitation site, and there's a huge book on how to do it. You don't have to become a knowledge phenom on that huge book, but you do need to identify what the resources are. And part of the planning process is determining that your hookup will meet. That's actually in the subdivision approval process I found on the SAC County planning site. So this, I just want you to research and find these things and then make a flow chart. Okay, here's what you do. First you go here, then you go here, then you go here, then you go here. And you don't have to become good at the calculations or even know what they are. But you're going to basically make a flow chart that says who to go to, what information you need from them, then go to this site, get this information, this site, this information, make a certain calculation, then turn it in. Okay? And this one, if anybody does this, I'll put you in touch with Dr. Hernandez, and you can zip it up into the form that and work with him just a little bit to make sure that it's something that he could use. Okay, so hopefully somebody will do this one. If this one turns into a 2-weeker, a 2-module, we can do that. I know that I could do it in about a week, so I'm hoping that you could do it in about 2 weeks. But if you run into problems and need extra help from me, we can extend this one. So you're going to do a PDF chart and then a link to the resources that you used in developing that chart. Community use of property proposal. Now this could also be one of the SACOG ones, but the submittal is a little bit different. I don't need you to write a SACOG template to do this one. This is really more the details, how you're going to do it. This one's a little more drawing and design oriented. So small subdivisions often have some sort of common area. Okay, and so I'd like you to reimagine Winding Oaks for this. Now, I know that Wasan already did this. Wasan included a community use swimming pool in her proposal. And so you don't get to do this one again. You have to do a different community use, Wasan. You can't just resubmit the one that you already did. Darn. But it was very. You could reimagine that same set of square feet, that same area as a different use. But you still have to have 4 lots. I'd like you to allocate at least 1,600 square feet. Now, that's not very much. And cool, so Robert says he already started on this one. But Robert, you're doing one in Del Paso Heights. Is that correct? I think you said you were going to do one in Del Paso Heights. So that's really cool. Oh, you did choose the Winding Oaks. Okay, the work you do is very transferable, so you'll be fine on that. And so there's lots of places. Like there's a place in Davis. It's called Village Homes, and they have a community use kitchen. And the requirement is that once a month, and this is a big development. There's like probably 50 or 60 homes, and it's fairly swanky, but it's all common garden, common area. You get like a little 10-foot by 20-foot area that's your own. You're required to do common area landscaping on another portion, and then there's huge portions that are done by the group, but they have a common cooking and eating facility. And once a month, your family is required to cook for everybody. And you sign up to say whether you're going to go eat there or eat at home. But it's kind of a cool thing, and it really builds community. And then another family signs up to do dishes. And so Benjamin's saying he's doing something sort of like that. So that's cool. And they've even put a restaurant on their site. So they have a very, very nice small restaurant on the site where they've actually got, a health authority and all that kind of stuff. And you can go there, and I think they've got 4 tables, and it's kind of a cool place. Garden landscaping, parking, car charging, play and park area. I mean, that one's really common. Study or work area. Especially if you want a place where you really beefed the internet, the web access, where everybody can go there, and you got this really, really strong web access. It's like guaranteed to that one spot. Common laundry area. Duh, everybody's familiar with that. Common storage area. Most apartments have something like that, and others do. Mail pickup and delivery. Although, I don't know if you guys heard, they caught the guys that were smashing the common area mail pickup things and stealing the mail, and they were forging driver's licenses and bank drafts. And yeah, actually, one of those places they hit was in Davis. And so I heard about it about 3 weeks ago. But they nailed them. They found them. So that's good. And then, of course, swimming pool. So these are all things that are, there's nothing uncommon or weird about these. What's interesting is how you set up who pays for what. Okay? And if you get into homeowners associations and how they're set up and who gets to vote and who gets to pay for what, especially when there's a split between low income and high income housing, these things can be very divisive. And so that's why you try to set them up as sustainable so that one group is not priced out of participating in the decision making process. And so then you want to specify the scope. Is it for the owners of the subdivisions only? Are you going to invite the neighboring properties to participate too? Is it open to the public? All those have their own different benefits and drawbacks and cool and uncool parts. And so, and there's no right or wrong. It's what you choose to do, but you have to sort of specify it. And then discuss how it can be made sustainable for future generations. That's the hard part. Does it generate income to defray maintenance and improvement costs? Does it reduce expenses somehow that could otherwise be placed on the owners? Those are things really that make something truly sustainable. So those are good things to think about. So what you do is you add the layout and the supporting documents to your Winding Oaks package, and then you create a new submittal that says revised Winding Oaks submittal package. Okay? So offset food, yes, offsetting food costs would be a point. That would be, and so there's another cool thing. That brings it, you say, would that be a point? There are, like, Cal Green did not use the point system, but LEED does, where it says, okay, to be sustainable, you need X number of points in this category, and this category, and you might make a little set of things that you can get points for that add up to being sustainable. That'd be a cool thing. I need to put that in another class. Okay. You guys give me good ideas. All right. Let's go on to the next one. I know I'm just yakking at you. So accessory building infill proposal. We know this is actually where that accessory building thing should be. That's what this one was supposed to go into. I don't know why I got it in the wrong one. Let me get that in here. So here's an actual law. And you could have looked it up on your own. You could ask Laura to look it up. She took that class. Accessory building laws. So here's the thing. There's a good chance that somebody would want to put some accessory buildings on their portion of this lot. That's going to cost money. So you have to think about how you're going to supply necessary utilities to that accessory building. And that's cold water, gas, sanitary drain, electric. Now, many places have enough built into each one of their own building pads that you could just run a line out there and that would be fine. But you could also imagine that you could have a little pod of 3 accessory buildings, maybe even sharing a carport or something like that, on a little bit of land that's been sort of set aside, sort of an easement where 3 of these places or 4 of them could even come together and have, even though the build out of the accessory unit is on its own property, the utilities are held in common. You could even set it up so that these small accessory units could pay to the homeowners association rather than to each individual lot. There's lots of ways to think about doing this, but the idea is that you think about it, and you don't even have to build it now. You think about it to make it easy to do in the future for the owners. So the idea behind this is sort of like what Professor Dr. Hernandez talked about within, I think it was Chile that got clobbered, or was it Argentina? Now I don't remember which one got clobbered by the tsunami. They had to rebuild, and they rebuilt half houses that could be built larger. This is the idea behind this too. Doesn't have to be built now. Doesn't even need the building pad, but the utilities could be put in, and that's a money saver down the road. And if you lay out your lot properly for this to be done in advance, that's where somebody could get some wealth generation from their property. So that's kind of cool. And so then you want to estimate what the extra cost of that is, figure out how that extra cost will be squared away between everybody. Will it be per lot? Will it, depending on lot size? There's all sorts of things to think about on here. So accessory building infill proposal. And that's before you've even built your subdivision. A Winding Oaks landscape plan. So many subdivisions would greenhouse be, yes, Natalia asks, would a greenhouse be counted as an accessory building? Absolutely, a greenhouse would be counted as an accessory building. And that's really nice because a greenhouse can be used as a sustainable profit generator. It could be, so that would be an ideal. So if you want to think, Natalia, of how you would build a greenhouse on that acreage, you could certainly make that into a 4-week, 2-module one, and I'll help you with the requirements on that. And then the question is, do you want it to, what type of greenhouse would it be, right? Is it just for the family's use? Is it commercial? Is it semi-commercial? Is it for floristry? Is it for crop generation? So I used to work for a tomato geneticist at UC Davis, and I was actually on the greenhouse crew. So I was one of the whitewashers, and one of my main jobs was mixing shit into the dirt using an upside down rototiller. So I mean, I'm telling you, vermiculite, shit and dirt, all in the right values for making all the little planters and everything. So you talk about permanent wilting point. I know all about permanent wilting point. I was also one of the seed generators, so I was one of the harvesters. I'd put those things blend them up, put them in 5-gallon buckets and ferment them for a week and then wash them and then count seeds. So I was a greenhouse guy for about 4 years. It was actually, I loved that job. Semi-commercial, you can absolutely do that, and we can work it as part of the property that you've got. So that would be a cool. I don't know the local, obviously, planning codes in your area. that would be for you to find out, but you could certainly do your cool drawings up and talk about the utilities and the water and how you're going to cool it and all that kind of stuff. You were saying you're outside the city limits, so it's it's probably got not too much. You can probably do whatever you want. So there we go. All right. So Winding Oaks land back. That's very, very cool. Yeah. So so that's cool. So you can be you can do good work there. Excuse me. I need some engineer's propane, otherwise known as caffeinated coffee. Okay. Winding Oaks landscape plan. This one is to a simple landscape plan for the subdivision. Okay? And this one's really critical because this happens a lot, and you hire a mow and blow person to keep the landscape looking nice, to replace cracked heads. It's a cost that has to be done. Well, so Benjamin asked for front yards only. That's part of your plan, isn't it? There's a Buddhist saying that I'll say, it's mu, M-U, mu. And it says, there's no context for that question. So what I'm saying is, if you have front and back yards, it could be front yards only. If you don't have yards and everything is common other than a small little area, it could be everything but that. Or it could be everything, period. So you get to choose on that one. But there's some things, there's going to be CC&Rs required then, because then it's like, can you plant a 80-foot tree in your backyard? What can you plant? How do you plant? When do you plant? Who gets to plant? These are all parts of CC&Rs, and you don't have to write this. Well, you may. Your final exam might be writing the CC&Rs for what you've done, but you want to minimize the mow and blow costs, which are use of low maintenance and drought tolerance plants. That's a very good thing to do. But then some people might think that's ugly, right? Or maybe you do fire safe. Or maybe you do moonscape. We're going to have a moonscape, man, because I like a moonscape. You get to, I doubt if anybody's going to do a moonscape. But try to minimize the mow and blow costs. And that goes into water, sprinkler heads, types of controllers, what grows, what doesn't grow, minimize water costs, minimize major tree maintenance costs, and that includes gutter repair, gutter cleaning, things like that. But by the same token, if you don't have any shade, that's kind of a bummer, and this place is called Winding Oaks. So, right? This one is a real cool one, and this one might be more than 2 weeks also, depending on what you decide to do. And then provide a sustainability plan. Life and size for each major planting area, along with annual maintenance costs and estimates, including when do you need to replace. So that's one of the things, like City of Davis, I don't understand. They did a tree maintenance plan about 20 years ago that identified the costs of their tree maintenance program to replace trees when they're too old and this and that and the other thing, and they haven't used it. I mean, literally, they're about 15 years behind. They just haven't ever funded it. So, it's great to have a plan and cost estimates, but you got to do the flipping thing. Like if a tree has a life of 30 years, you have to have some idea that you're going to replace it in 30 years. And how do you get rid of the roots? And what do you replace it with? And how do you do all that work? And how do you save up the money? Take a tree down now, it costs a couple $1,000s maybe. Especially if somebody planted it right on top of a cable or something like that. So this is not an easy one, but it's kind of a cool one. And if you're interested, you can work with that one. Use of survey tools with drones. Here's our drone simulator program. It works for OS X. I think one of these is Mac, Windows, and Linux, I think. So there's a couple of ways that you get to do it. But we're going to give you access to something called Drone Deploy if you decide to do this, and we'll let you look at the DXFs. We've got a really cool one from the Mather Air Force Base Weapons Bunker Redevelopment Project. We got Wildman Hill. And then there's a process that you go through to get from DXF into Revit. And it's much more than what we've done so far. And there's much more than what you'll want to do. And so, and then you want to be able to fly the drone also. And then make a little report on what it takes to get an FAA license for doing drone operations. So if you're interested in getting the basics of how drones are used as a survey tool, and the reason I've picked two of these is because it's really not very good for this one, but it's small. It's excellent for this one, but you don't really run into places that are that easy to do. And Wildman Hill is a very typical one that you do some work on. So you're going to get a chance to do all those. And you've had a little experience with Wildman Hill that you've seen the DXF. But we need to get you on there to see how you create the DXF and things like that. So if you're interested in drones and how to use them, there we go. And then here's the big one, this is the use of survey tools, really more in depth. How do you really use these? And so you're going to do traverses in AutoCAD or Revit. You're going to make a survey of an area that requires you to move the instruments around. There you go. That's how you're going to have to resurvey and get a complete survey of this. And so you know how to do that one a little bit already. You're going to talk about error in your survey and different ways of getting distances, lasers, stadias, wheelie things, tapes, chains, using LiDAR, using a level, using a total station. So it's it's not really in depth on all of these, but I've given you a little video here on the differences in measurement tools and the type of error you're going to get in each one, and what you might find. And so you have to be able to do that work for yourself. So there'll be if somebody signs up to do this one, I'm going to give you a bunch more. There's some drawings to do in AutoCAD or actually in anything. It doesn't matter. But there's just some good work. And then you'll be and you can do the survey as a team or on your own, but you'll be able to actually place the survey instrument now, take your survey, you'll be able to put rods in, remove rods, but the rods are actually regular height now, so you can't survey the whole site from one point. So you're going to learn how to move your survey equipment and then realign all your data so that it all matches up again. And then the last thing that you're going to do is learn about true north, magnetic north, and grid north. And that's just a very short little, like DT300, one page little report, cut and paste from Wikipedia and pop it in there. Okay? So let's see if there's any more. Oh yeah, commercial site development. Okay, this one's really cool. So you've done residential site development. This one's a commercial site. And the site looks like, is that it? No, that's not it. Here it is. So here's a new development plan. You can see there's a new roadway going in. This is an existing roadway. There's a new sewer line going to be put in because this is a cul-de-sac that's going to be part of a development. And this is going to go off to another new development. So this little area right in here is going to be a small commercial site, and you get to lay it out for an anchor pad, a retail unit pad, a kiosk, and parking. And there'll be looking up some things, but it's not too bad, and you can do it in any program you want. This is 3D, so of course you can put this right into Revit and have a Revit file, or you can do it in AutoCAD or in Vectorworks. I know Vectorworks has been pretty successful for who's using that? Is it Xandria that's using Vectorworks? I'm not really sure. You could even do it in Dynascape, but I don't think it's too appropriate. I don't think it works that well. So you'll take this site, this area that's bounded by the new road and the existing road, and you're going to develop this area into a new commercial site. Okay? And then I've also taken it here or given it to you as, I think I've already popped it into Revit. That's essentially the entire site already, or some, I don't know what this one is actually. Maybe that's not it. But if you want to just work on this site and make this one into a commercial property, you can do that too. Okay? So I've given you a couple of options on what to do on there. You're going to take an anchor pad, a retail merchandise pad, and a kiosk. And look up the County of Sacramento parking requirements, the shade requirements, and show ingress and egress. How do you get on and how do you get off? And so it's much like the residential plan. There's a cover page, an existing, a demolition, which in your case won't really have anything. There's nothing to demolish. This one's actually all new. A parking plan, a utilities plan. Basically, it's a blank table. And a thing that just shows that you're going to, how are you going to get lines to each of those pads. A CalGreen attestation, and a fair housing. You want to say, even though you have almost no information, how this is going to impact the surrounding neighborhoods, especially with respect to fair housing. Okay, so this is another one, and this one counts for 2 modules. So this is a 4-week project. Okay, let's see. And I think that's it. And then the Minecraft. So I went over time just a little bit. What I'm going to do right now, does anybody have any last questions before we take a quick break and then get into a question and answer period and let you guys start working on what you want to do? Any quick questions about how it works? Okay, then I'm going to turn off the recording.